All right, cyber traders, welcome on back here for another fantastic edition of our Traders Talk Workshop here this Tuesday, March 26th, shortly after 11 o'clock Eastern Time. Great to see all of our students and members alike: Kathleen, Brad, Mark, Alex, John, Thomas, Rick, got Leonard, got all of our students inside our Cyber Group Trading Room. And if you're otherwise joining us on YouTube, that being at Cyber Trading U, just our social media streams and platforms all together. But keep in mind that we host all of our videos, main hubs, just on YouTube. That being so. Ring the bell, hit the follow or subscribe button, just that being at Cyber Trading U if you are new. If not, then welcome back. But otherwise, we got a lot to talk about here today, right? Don't we? So let me ask really quickly, what's the news going into this morning? What do you see on the screen this morning, at least if anything, in the trading room? If you're Mark or Alex or Leonard, if you're following the news at all, at least, what do you end up seeing us trade today? A stock that I normally don't trade. Well, it's actually a stock that none of us have technically traded since it's a new ticker out there on the market, but same company, obviously. DWAC, now known as DJT, right? So with a stock like DJT, this is not DJT. We'll get to that in just a little bit. But with a stock like DJT, oh boy, this does not look to be doing too good now, right? Well, first and foremost, right? Whatever your political opinions are, I just want everyone to realize that no one here comes for Josh Levitan's political opinions, right? So this is where I say, if you want to have a separate side chat about politics, well, that's it. Let me know. We'll exchange emails. We'll get you going on the side. But inside our live trading room, we are mainly focused around the big levels in which a stock is trading. So hey, if you don't like Trump and don't want to trade it, no news is not bad news, right? And trade another stock. That's totally okay, right? Please, there's a bunch of other trades out there that we could follow, that we did from earlier this morning, that we will follow later on. But for a stock that, let's say, you're not as familiar with, for a stock that's normally out of your price range, and you normally don't trade a 60, 70, $75 stock, for a stock that's more volatile and has a bigger spread compared to what we normally want you to focus on, how do you trade it? Well, that's what we'll kind of go over here. Clearly, in summation, this did not make the move that we were hoping for it to across the morning thus far, right? All right. Well, what were the levels, at least, that we could have followed after the market opened up? There was one, at least, key level or one key trade that you could have had earlier. You see it on the chart as it began to hold back under that price there, 70.55. So I was just going over this with one of my students on a coaching call earlier, and it's just like, something that we talk about all the time here in Traders Talk, truly. So regardless of the stock, regardless of the price, this is just the same practical example that we cover each and every week, right? All right, really quick, folks. Uh, where do you see the darkest red lines going across the screen in full from left to right? From top to bottom, left to right, where do you see the dark red or orange lines going across the page? For Grant, Luis, Sam, Leonard, got a few of us saying 50, 45, all great answers there. Absolutely. Kind of a little bit above 45. And I think that's what Luis was saying there. Like kind of a weird price. This is a weird price here. 47.28, I guess. I guess I don't know. Normally it's around a whole number price, so we'll zoom in if we need to. But that's not really where I was getting towards, right? That's what I wanted you to answer. That's kind of where we see the orange and red lines, and that represents about 51,000 shares. This right here represents about another 51,000 shares. Luis asking about, what about 80? Absolutely, that's actually where you have the most amount of shares. Like when you look at the screenshot, but it's about 54, 55,000 shares roughly, right? That sounds like a lot. It is. Where it shows this red dot and it says the word volume in that data box, volume. Can you type to me what the size is next to the word volume? To the right of the word volume there. What do you got? 526,371, right? All right, so let me ask you folks, what's a bigger size, 54,816 or 526,371? I think that we all know the answer. I think that we all know the answer to that, right? So, with saying such, that was the price that I was centralizing my trades around here this morning on this trade. Now, first 5 minutes, market opens up. We wait. We wait the first 3 to 5 minutes, right? All right. Well, in the first 3 minutes, 2 minutes, this thing got halted on the way down. This actually dropped off so fast, it tanked and it got halted on the way down. So I was looking for an under and over, but it was within the first like 2 or 3 minutes, let alone five. So I'm hands off, certainly just within that time frame. But it just on a down halt, you got to wait now at least 5 minutes, if not more, 10 minutes otherwise, and then see what happens from there. Really quick, folks, when a stock breaks below support and it tanks from it, actually, big shout out to one of our students, Warren. Got to get you back in our trading room, Warren, joining us on YouTube today, perhaps on the road, saying in big charts, DJT is the Dow Transportation Index. That's funny because, even on book map this morning, level 4, the level 4 heat map there that I just showed, it didn't have DJT at first in the morning. I think Rich was saying that. I had to like put that in, like actually take the time since I guess it was like an overnight switch. Either way, it's just to say though, hey, when a stock breaks below big support normally becomes what at first? When a stock breaks below big support, it becomes normally what at first? And actually, to answer that question, as you obviously still see it on the screen, let me jump to this trade. Oh man, this is making a nice pop without me right now live. CGC, that's all right though. We miss trades all the time. It's okay. I actually took a trade on this earlier and flipped a nice profit, but it was just now it's running better. Hey, yesterday, this stock had a huge support level at 687. Well, earlier this morning, before it popped it held it at first, initially, as resistance. Initially, right? Same principles apply here. This got halted on the way down. It was like screaming on the way down. So as it begins to perk back up, it's got to prove itself as resistance. So at first, I'm not so hands-on with it. I'm just expecting resistance to hold. The only issue on that, though, is that this thing has such a paper thin, empty order book. So it makes it very difficult for us to like anticipate when the like best opportunity is to wait for that real over, that pop above the big level there. So I think I took a small loss on this at first, just trading 100 shares, and then I ended up jumping in as it pushed back above that price. And easy to say, it led to a nice little squeeze. But even this, though, how many shares are you really doing this on? This is kind of just for fun, right? And hey, if this pops up to $100 today, of course, that's where like even trading 50 shares, 20 shares, like you can absolutely crush it on this stock. And I know you might think for anyone that might be new or any of our options traders, of course, at least you might say, well, you can trade the option on it, right? If the option order book is liquid enough. B, if you're familiar with trading options, it's not just to say options are better because they're cheap. That's where people get crushed with trading options. Options could be very advantageous. Actually, this morning, my best trade on the day really was the Tesla one that I had from the trading room. But outside of that, at least, I'm normally sticking to stocks myself. Even this, like, I didn't even care to check the options out on this trade. I just figured that they would be too illiquid. And then from there, just it's a waste of time. All right, I ended up just sticking with the stock. So I ended up just doing 100 shares, just traded a smaller size in relation to what I normally do. I mean, even for a $70 stock, I'd normally just trade 100 shares, I guess. But just compared to 500, 1,000, you don't need to trade that many shares, that big size to kill it on this type of trade. I wasted actually a good chunk of profit on this stock because I wanted to see a higher low build, and it ended up snapping down. So I'm like, shit. All right, let's take the money and run. So I forgot even where I got out. It was like at 72 and change or something. Like, all right, made a little profit there, right? Well, it was based off the entry. It was based off the entry, right? It was based off how I got in. It's not just, oh, the stock had news and it pumped up. No, because hell, I wanted this thing to pump up that much more. And I don't think it will today. Looking at the chart now live, if it does, I'll think about it. But it's got to break over this big level, and not only that, at this point, it's been trying to do that all morning. So maybe now I'd even want to see more. Maybe I would even want to see a higher low build from like 74 ish, where you have a little chart level here, right? Like that could be more in line, but that's where I can kind of jump back and say, you know what? I'm not so interested in a stock that's trending down here, still making lower highs when there's other trades that are moving better going upward, right? Got a couple stocks that, we're still following at least across the morning, CGC or, the one I'm in right now, the SMMT at least at, bottom right you'll see. But yeah, CGC, I just missed out on a nice move. I was on a coaching call, like I said, with one of our students, Glenn, and, at the time this had a good pop. This is what I missed at first. It broke above this range here of resistance, just the two purple lines on the chart, just chart levels. More or less on this, at least from the 687, it was good support, and I had a good bounce on it earlier, but I was out of this trade going into 1030, and it pushed up off this resistance without me at first. So I'm looking for this resistance to flip into support. This is where, unfortunately, this didn't cooperate with what I wanted to do or with what I wanted it to do. I wanted this to fall into this range of purple lines, like even just kind of nip under the top one, under, then over. I was going to look to take that entry from there. And just, it obviously didn't do that move. But even furthermore, this would have been the next level right here. This yellow larger line at 769. On CGC, this was a pretty clean resistance to work off of. Why? Well, this is where I could say it's not just a matter of looking at the icebergs, like we said, even on the like we even said earlier on the DJT trade. It's a matter of seeing some of the larger prints that come in on the tape, the opening bell prints, if need be, or namely otherwise, like the closing price, the closing bell print. Really quick, in the data box that you see there, just kind of in the top right of my screen for Luis and Brad and Grant, Dominic, all of our students here. To the right of the word close, you got a price in green. Might be hard on the eyes there. My apologies if you need to kind of look in close. What's the price next to the word close? Michael, Rhonda, Sam, Brad, all of us saying 769, right? Let's actually go back on the tape if I can. Hope I can here. Let's see. I should still be able to at this point. Give me a quick sec here. Not going to waste too much time on this. Just, typically 2 days out, I could still go back on the time and sales on my trade stations. So I just want to show you this if I can. Yeah, there we go. Hey, this is the actual closing bell print back on Friday afternoon. Back on that candle it was, 769. How many shares is that, folks? How many shares is that? Where it says size? How many shares is that? Now, this we will definitively cover tomorrow in the phase one stock course. We covered this on level 2, at least on the market depth window. Add 2 zeros at the end of that number. Add 2 zeros. So that actually is like in terms of contracts, technically, like undersized there. So like we taught yesterday with the market depth program, level 2, add 2 zeros at the end of that number. That is 139,400 shares. All right. This morning, we had an iceberg at $8 on CGC for about 29,000 shares. Let me ask you, what's a bigger size, 139,400 or 29,375? And we all know the answer. I'm not having you type it in. But that's where I say that, those closing bell prices are pretty important to follow. We teach this in our phase one stock course tomorrow. Live, we'll be teaching that actually, the time and sales class. But that's what created this resistance here. Can't tell me it's not. Look how strong it was for about 20 minutes worth of time. And then just before it led to the pop higher, even here, just held it as support again, a little under and over action, right? I actually just missed that. Haha. Now, normally I don't trade while I do this workshop. I'm going over email questions in just a little bit. I wanted to kind of digest and go through a few different trades that we were just calling out, at least the DJT. That's a little bit more untradable in terms of price, in terms of order book. But I know that there's a lot of us that were following it this morning. I was, and I wanted to kind of share you my mindset there. But namely, we try and tailor this workshop around stocks that are tradable, stocks that we tend to advocate for you to follow a lot more. So CGC was a great trade from earlier today. How about Krispy Kreme? What the hell's going on here, right? I mean, this is a nice push right now live. It's more of a slow push, kind of a grinder. So, like, really, it's not like the most volatile trade right now, but it led to a good entry earlier today. And, I wish I gave this stock more attention. We'll just cover this really quick and then we'll go into emails. But DNUT, they came out with news about a partnership with McDonald's. I don't know if that's for the better or for the worse, to be honest with you. But clearly got a good reaction from the street. I don't know what that says about the street, but no, it's to say that DNUT potentially can make a nice pop today, right? Hey, I like my donuts. I'm not shaming anyone. I like my donuts. I also like my McDonald's, but I guess I could say I'm more of a Chick-fil-A guy nowadays. But here with DNUT, you would figure $15 would be a big level whole number price, right? Whole number. Well, looking at this heat map here, this thing looks damn ugly. Actually, it's 16 bucks. You got like an orange line sticking out there. It's only about 9,000 shares out there. Geez, that's not big. That's not big at all. Well, we look on the CVP column, and that's where you can kind of tell it's like right at 15. Yeah, right at 15. You got big volume filled from consolidation. So, how important is that when it's at 15 right here? Not as relevant because if it's not bouncing off of it and moving off of it, then, well, it's going to bounce and move off of it just the opposite direction, go the other way at the time. That's what it did. But at least later into the morning, the more this kind of moves back up to it, that price 15 could act as resistance. So, point being is it still was pretty choppy from there. It wasn't perfect, wasn't flawless, but it ended up pushing back above it and then ran from there eventually later on. Was there a better level? Was there an even better level? Well, I think we know the answer to that, kind of going over the first couple of examples, at least here, but let me actually jump back on time and sales for this one, actually dig into the tape, go into like the opening print on this one for right now and show you this at the open from not yesterday, from today. There we go. All right. What's the price of the largest transaction on that time and sales window there? Again, I'm going to do the actual class on this, like a real A to Z class on this tomorrow. This is just a quick like trade analysis. We're going to at least go into the further part of this move in just a moment. But where do we see the largest transaction on the time and sales there? At what price? 1484, right? From a lot of us. 222,500 shares. 1484, you say? Let's move this line down. Hmm. Hmm. Looks a lot cleaner. Looks a lot cleaner to me. Broke under it, tanked. Support became resistance. It held under it perfect after. Now, there's one point where you'd hope to see support. It shakes around it for like a couple of minutes. This is one shake around that you got. But aside from this one shake around, this was super clean. Resistance, support after, right? From there, ran. So it goes to show that, those opening, closing prices could be very relevant. And then just later on, the stock ended up pushing up. So, let's see. It ended up showing an iceberg order. Looks like it moved from 1550 down in price to 1520. Now, why would someone do that? Well, maybe they want to apply selling pressure on the trade. Maybe they're short on the stock and they got to, try and pad the sell side up and try and drive the stock down that way. Maybe. It's a thought. Not going to lose sleep pulling my hair out over it. Maybe someone doesn't think it's going to go up to 1550 and they just innocently want to just sell their shares at 1520. Is that not legal? Is that not doable? It is. So You can't pull your hair out wondering like, why'd they pull their order there? Why'd they place it there? Listen, the resistance is now at 1520 until otherwise. Now, if this order gets moved around every 2 minutes and it's like, playing hockey up and down the order book, I don't like that. That's not good. When there's too much moving around, that's not for me. This here is totally fine. This happens all the time. But once this order got broken through, this thing made a big move shortly after, didn't it? So you'd like to think when a stock breaks through a big level on the way up, that's our best entries right there. And you could say the same in relation to looking for support, but this was a clean breakout above resistance. There was no, curveball at this, right? You didn't have to pull much hair out wondering about this trade. Once that order got filled, it was off to the racetracks. So that's where we need to just make trading simple. Just make trading simple, folks. We got to follow a rule set first and foremost. Like be disciplined with following rule set, um, and then from there, as long as we're doing that, we just gotta really just focus on trend, focus on the simplicity of it, focus on the fact that stock may be coming off good news. Okay, well, we do like a catalyst. We're not just gonna buy a stock because of catalyst, but if there is a big level afterwards and it breaks over that, let's not get too concerned. Let's take the trade. Let's set a very tight stop. Put your seatbelt on, like we always say, right? Um, uh-oh. Uh-oh. Well, if your power keeps going out, like Rick here in the chat, I mean, especially if you're trading, mind you, that would not be too good, especially if you're trading. So you always want to have a backup plan for as simple as we want to make trading out to be, right? Well, keep in mind this workshop is recorded, so we'll have this on the dashboard just momentarily at least. But let me actually ask, is anyone here military or ex-military? Anyone here, just any branch, armed forces? Brad, Cal, Larry, Irving, Grant, Thomas. What branch of the military, Thomas? On a coaching call with a student just yesterday, and they had mentioned to me they're ex-Army. So right away, first and foremost, thank you for all of your service. Just everyone here that wrote to me. Luis, you as well. I didn't realize. I'm sorry. Luis as well in there. Grant, Thomas in the Army. And then, hey, anyone on YouTube as well, mind you. Thank you for your service, first and foremost. You have infinitely more courage than I could ever muster up, unfortunately. And, I appreciate for everything that you've done, right? But when it comes to, that question, right? Like, who's in the military? Well, the reason I ask is because with trading, you got to follow a game plan. You got to follow a step-by-step protocol. And hey, if you are armed forces, ex-military in any branch, bless you, you have way more discipline in terms of following a step-by-step rule set compared to anyone here in this chat board, myself included, right? So myself, right? I've been doing this for 10 years with Fausto. Certainly now at this point, it's gotten a lot smoother. But even like looking back on, 5 years ago, Josh, I was better 5 years ago than I was, 5 years before that. But it's still an ever growing process to gain that consistent discipline of following a step by step strategy, right? Not so easy to do it, right? And I appreciate anyone altogether that joins CTU that looks to commit to us and our strategy. One of the first things I'll say is it's tough to mix and match a strategy with someone else's. To look at CTU strategy and follow it with so and so persons that you learn from another course, or this guy, that gal, like anyone out there that teaches how to trade. Hey, there are certain strategies that do blend perfectly, but that doesn't mean that everyone is blendable. And with ours, the more that we stray away from that step by step protocol, well, that's where we're, of course, not going to be able to take as clean entries. We're going to expose ourselves at potentially taking larger losses. But all in all, what that does is that it doesn't build your confidence up, does it? Right? That's the last thing that does. Builds up your confidence. So for any of my new students joining me here, it's like, all right, well, like, what should we be most focused on when it comes to each and every morning? Focus on stocks that are within your skill level. Focus on stocks that are easy on your eyes, right? And I know it's not so easy to do when you see stocks that are up like, 75%, 150%, whatever it may be, the DJT, whatever your thoughts are on Trump, good, bad, left, right, up, down, you name it, whatever it may be. This could kind of take your attention away from something that is way more tradable. So, not every morning is it going to be so easy to do, but that's where we say, like, first and foremost, we really advocate for all of our members in our trading room to, join us as a student down the line, just, the phase one stock course. And then certainly, like, I go more into the meat and potatoes in phase two, live market stuff. Then from there, phase three. But, just generally speaking, stocks like CGC provide you way more ability to focus and react. This made the perfect under and over move that I would look for here, anticipating potential support, right? Stinks that I'm not in it right now, but just goes to show that there's always an opportunity, right? Now this thing's flying Brian right now. This thing is ripping through levels right now, left and right. So, just I'll focus on this here for a bit. Then I got to dig into emails just in a second. But the last time the stock ran up was back in December. We did well on it back then. So, high back then was 820, then 835. Seems like it's kind of peaking around the 820-ish right now. That's not really a solidified daily chart level. It's just the last peak that it had. And a 15-cent price range doesn't really give me too much to work off of there. Mm, Filled a gap on the way down here on the weekly graph. That's kind of interesting. I'll tell you, there isn't like so clear of a historical level. I guess if you flip this into a weekly and would rather focus on that 835 top, that would be something to do. But otherwise, this is now where I'd say just focus intently and mainly like just on the order book. Focus on the ECN book, level 3, level 4, and see if there's anything out there for that trade. $850, 26,000. That's not like too much. All right, let me jump through some email questions here, folks. Again, if you're on YouTube, Facebook Live, we advocate for you to join us inside our live trading room. Just at the end of this workshop, just scan that QR code on the top left of the stream, just if you're fancy with your phone, fancy with your camera. If not, yeah, you could actually go down to the link on the green banner below there, streaming just on the bottom. ctu.co/trial, that should be. But otherwise, though, just feel free to send over any questions before we finish this workshop up, and I'll be more than happy to help you out, just like my student Warren just before. Philip, actually, one of our members, actually should be inside our trading room. Philip, looking forward to our coaching session or our call coming up here at 12 o'clock. Look forward to that myself, and we'll go over any other questions that you got from me here. But going through my inbox here first. Let's just take a look at some emails here. Actually, I got to get through to my longtime student here, Leroy. So Leroy had just a couple emails that sent in. I don't know if they were Traders Talk related. So I was like, all right, let me just save it for Traders Talk because, this is just the best outlet where I have the chance to write back to you. So Leroy's been with us for probably like 8-9 years, I think, at this point. Probably 7 to 8 or 8 to 9 years, just generally speaking. And Leroy, if you're with us live right now, I'd love to have you chat me here from Baytown, Texas. He says, "Hello, Josh. Some time ago, I had the option to refresh the CTU list. Pardon me, or a choice of other scans. I can no longer access it. What could I do to get this feature back?" Now that I think could be directly through the CTU website. Actually, this would be good to answer actually here because we have a lot of new students joining us here, new members altogether, and at least as far as a student, Leroy, one of our diamond students, I believe. So even if you're just bronze student of CTU, I think that you should have access to this. Just go to the student portal, and it should just say my downloads. I'll just show you right here from my side. Little tutorial here all together. Why not? So here's the student portal, Josh's portal. There we go. Downloads. I click downloads right there, Leroy. And for all of our students here, loading up. And then TradeStation. Look at this. You got all these different links here for the scans. 9.5 works for 10. Don't worry about that as much if you're on 10. I guess we can just kind of update the 10 there at the time. But otherwise, these go just hand in hand into 9.5 or 10, and it comes with the how to install video right here down below. I don't think that has sound in that video. It's soundless, but you can play that. It'll show it carbon copy. Then there's also a Word document, I believe, right here for the setup. All right. Now, I want to just keep going through my inbox though, because I think that Leroy sent another. I just want to make sure that it was the. Yeah, he says there used to be a window on the CTU page that gave us the option during dole times to renew the CTU list as well as other lists that were moving during the day. So if that's on TradeStation, Leroy, that's kind of what I was just mentioning right there to go through the CTU student portal. Now, if it's just like on like the chat, just like the cyber group room, that is through the alerts section right here. So you'll see like the main chat board where everyone's typing. That's down below here. But above that, you have our alerts section here, just above, and that has its own scroll bar. So when you go to that alert section, you scroll through because you got to go through some of like the memos that we post here for like traders talk. You had a poll question I sent out earlier, and then you got the list. So these are where we keep all of the watch lists throughout the weeks, each and every day, each and every week. We post it in the main chat, but hey, we're always chatting throughout the day, so it gets bumped up a lot. So this is where we store them. If you want to just see all of the watch lists here in the cyber group room, the alert section above the main chat will have it all. All right. All right. We keep going through though. Leroy, hope you're doing well, my friend. And again, let me know if there's any other questions that anyone here has live. I will get to those at the tail end of this workshop. Just emails come first. So we get to my guy Phil here, right here. There we go. I was going to answer this perhaps coming up. So he says, watching the pre-recorded lessons. Oh, this might have to be with like just like again the student portal here briefly. Just one moment here. So in relation to covering the daily journal, the C2 daily journal, I think Philip was asking that here. So that is in relation to phase one. I teach that in the phase one stock course, the journaling class to be exact. Actually, we are in class week. I'm in class mode, honestly, although we don't have class today to be exact. Here is the class calendar right here. And back in January, I taught this class, Journaling Your Trades. So this was back in the January phase one classes. Numerically, it's class number 4. So I go through the whole how-to on that. And then in phase 2, I told you I dig further into the meat and potatoes here in phase 2, live market interaction, but also really this is like kind of like the advanced quote unquote journaling class, studying and planning ahead. So both of those really cover journaling in full from A to Z. All right, and then also saying I could use the instructions setting up Think or Swim book viewer. Currently, it's all a mystery. Absolutely, I will cover that with him coming up right at the top of this hour, 12 o'clock. Looking forward to that, as I said, Phil. And oh, actually, I normally wouldn't say this so out loud or just, I'd just chat you, Phil. For some reason, the coaching link I'm sent you earlier, apparently didn't go through. I don't know. I'll have to just check as soon as I finish up this webinar here, Philip, and we'll get you in for the coaching session there. But let me know if there's any other questions for all of us here live. I may have gotten through all of them, at least for the time being. Just check my junk folder, my spam folder here. Sometimes a couple get caught. Nope. Oh, here we go. Sorry, got one from Ron. My apologies here. From Ron P. On email. He says, Josh, I don't know if I have access to Fausto's morning picks, but whether I do or not, I could use some guidance on how to scan for the best stock candidates to trade. Okay, so that's a little bit different, right, from what I was saying with just, seeing the alert section there and, just being able to scroll through. This will definitely help Ron out here with that question. But as far as like how to scan yourself and how to build up your own watch list, right? So that will take a little bit more time than just a quick spark noted answer I can give you here. And that's just the truth behind it. Like you saw the class calendar I just showed you for phases 1 and 2. So, there's a lot of time I need to really go over just the prioritization of our watch list. It's not just, how to scan and just, our criteria. It's actually how to prioritize one over another. And it takes a little while to kind of share mindset. I mean, every stock you'd like to figure it's the same strategy we're employing. But as far as my interest level from one above another, the best thing I could tell you is that we focus on liquidity and tradability. So, I'm not going to get caught by the shiny object in the room. I'm going to focus on the stock that is a lot more filled in as far as the order book, the spread. This is like a great stock for that reason, right? So, you know, this type of trade we had our eyes on this morning. It wasn't on the main watch list per se. I don't believe it was, at least. But because it had popped from Friday, it was on a lot of our individual side lists. Basically outside of the main morning watch list that we, kind of scan daily for. Every day is a new list. It's to say that our side lists basically are stocks that we've done well on day trading from day to day, or maybe a stock that we did well on maybe a day or two ago, and it might still have good volume, might still be very tradable. Maybe it's not up or down 5% or 15% in pre-market, but there's a better chance for that to potentially pop. And if that's our thought, at least, maybe we prioritize that stock from our side list above some of the ones that even made the morning watch list here. So that's where I can kind of say it takes a little time to kind of share more of my mindset as far as one over another, because there might be a couple stocks that look like this here that are like, $8 to $10, $5 to $12 generally, that have a good order book. I know I could trade 1,000 shares or maybe even 2,000 shares. And, you know, to me, they're all the same as far as like just opportunity, because we don't know ahead of time which one's the best. Literally, if we did, none of us would have a need to be here. Right? Just think about that. So I'm equal opportunity as far as what I find to be tradable. Now, do I find CGC to be equal opportunity to DJT? No, because one's way more expensive than the other. Both are coming off news, both are coming off good momentum. That's true. But one's like 10 times the price compared to the other. What are we talking about? One has like a dollar spread or 50-cent spread compared to another. It's like apples to vegetables there, even. So that's where essentially a stock like this, or even let's say a stock like SOUN, not moving as well right now, but one that is similar, $5 to $8 price range, pretty volatile in a good way, has a great order book. If both are making a similar move in the pre-market, then as long as I'm able to kind of contain it to just those, I'd rather just stick with following both equally, right? It's hard to pick one over another when they have similar characteristics on the morning. Now, if one is up like 7 or 8% on the pre-market watch list, one is up like 1.5% barely moving. Yeah, I'm not going to focus on both. I'm going to focus on one over that other. So like here, obviously, this is up 2%. I'm not giving this the light of day today. At least I did in the morning. And when it pulled back around reversal time, we fell off from it. Up, back down. All right, we're going to hold support again. Hold support a couple times already, I feel like, on this trade, right? Once, twice, 3 times. Or I don't really have like a clean level as far as the chart. Maybe, and just maybe, you can kind of say 793-ish, because that did become support on this little pullback. But you don't want to keep chasing it going up like that. I know that 769 is a much larger, more significant level to work off of. Maybe if only the only other thing I could say on this trade would be whatever the open price was from yesterday. That would technically be the weekly open price. That'd be the only thing I'd kind of focus on from there, unless if there's something crazy popping up from the heat map at the moment. Up, and it's pretty close. It's like almost right there, 796, 280,000 share block print. So I'd basically use the combination of 796 and $8 as your next key set of levels here to see flip into support. Both of them together create a level, and you'd want to see that flip into support ultimately here. Keep it like that. It's easy on the eyes. All right. Brad says earlier swing trade, but he got out on the DJT trade. Oh, okay. Very nice, Brad. All right. Go back to DJT there. He got out on a swing, so I had a clean entry on at least and wrote it up. But yeah, that stock's going nowhere right now, right? Just, it's a shame. You know, I'm not going to be trading the stock each and every day because it's not going to look good each and every day. It's not going to be on the gainers list each and every day. Uh, Today it was. So for that reason, obviously I had to give it a little, focal point, a little light here. But otherwise, again, it just goes back to saying we got easier money to make. DNUT even, maybe not as much live currently, even though it's at the highs. It's more so to say later on. Perhaps the stock could be a better trade later on today, 2:30, 3 o'clock, when we typically have better momentum, right? It's got a good order book, right within our price range for the most part. Oh, this very trade is actually still kind of heating up. Okay, so VERI, I was looking for a trade on this just before. It was before Traders Talk started, and I went break even on it because I did chase it a little bit. I got this a little bit higher from that blue line 603-ish. That's basically a chart level that I had from earlier today. Make that purple. But that's pretty crazy how strong that price is right now. Goes to show how strong that level is altogether here because I had plotted that prior to this workshop starting. So I took a trade here from like 612 as my entry. I really thought it was going to go. And it didn't. It just tried and it pulled back. I got out before we started, like break even to be exact, or like +1 even. It was, I don't, that's like nothing. Just at this point here, if it's not going to make that push higher, it's only going to go one other way. And it did at the time. It did at the time. Not in the business of holding on to a trade, trying to rip my hair out, wondering if it's going to keep popping. I'd rather just take the break even, whether it's even at like a +1 or like a -2. It's break even to me. That's like flat break even, and then move on. Because look at it right now. I avoided about an hour or about 50 minutes worth of BS, to be honest with you here. And now it's starting to move back up. It's trying to build a little Fausto flag here. Maybe there is a chance in which this could make a little pop for us right now live. I normally don't trade while I'm in Trader's Talk, but hey, this is a pretty damn good level, and it's been perking up to it all throughout the late morning here. Showed a couple of spikes above it here over time. I'd probably say it was like 602-ish, but just kind of generally that top I was focused on with my student Glenn. All right, well, maybe I'll keep an eye on this coming up as we finish up Traders Talk, jumping on to my call with Philip momentarily. And, hey, if this could break above this line, perhaps that could be our next move, right? As long as the stock is trending upward and has a good order book, it's presenting a clean opportunity for us to try and make money on it. Oh, actually, really quick before I finish up. Okay, I was going to get to this. Sorry. The Tesla trade. I really hope that very trade doesn't pop without me. I'm just going to put that up on my other screen. But the Tesla trade, really quick. I had my student Chuck asking, like, when I called this out, why are you trading the options on it when you could trade the ETF TSLL? My answer was, yeah, why not? You know, absolutely. Because Tesla, for as much volume as the stock trades, for it being $180, basically, it's on a really good order book for the price. Now, for TSLL, this is the Tesla ETF, basically carbon copies Tesla's move. This is an extremely liquid ETF. It is a great idea to follow this. But I don't have a rhyme or a reason outside of like I could probably make more money trading the option if I get a good entry on it. Because hey, for as cheap as the option is, if you are an experienced day trader that knows how to follow what we focus on day to day, and the proof is in your pudding. When you see it in your own P&L each and every day or most days of the week, and you know what you're talking about, say, all right, you could trade options, just you got to set an even tighter stop. I've refrained from trading options because, well, it wasn't exactly carbon copy with my risk management. With my entries, it was. I was off to clean trades almost every time, but then I'd set my stop and I'd get stopped out before I would on the stock. And it's because of the implied volatility. And I was taking loss after loss. And it's like, all right, you know what? I could just better harness my time on what I make better money on, trading the stock. And better doesn't always mean more, better means higher probability. So mainly I stick to trading stocks. With that said, I just said to myself earlier because Tesla broke above resistance at 180. I looked on the heat map for TSLA for Tesla, that is, and it smashed over a big resistance at that time at 180. And this was just after the first 5 minutes. So we're sitting here thinking, all right, well, stock breaks through a big level. Not only should it make a big move up, but resistance should look to become support. So on the pullback is when I was looking to buy the calls on this. I believe I ended up getting filled. Is at 261 or is at 271? And the price was came out to be the option calls. It was a clean entry as far as the breakout, but it ended up leading to a huge run because it did what we wanted it to do. Not every stock does what we want it to do. So that's where we have to set a very tight stop regardless. And on my trade here, I ran the risk of saying, you know what? 1 + 1 = 2 here in the sense that we got a lot of time until that 10:30 reversal time at least. It's only 9:35, 9:37 in the morning, and Tesla smashed over a clearly big level at 180. Just to show you that, right here was the level 180. Broke above it as resistance. Resistance became support. It broke under it. It broke back over it. It held back over it. And then it moved up higher. So, on this trade, I got out way too soon just because I was up just a decent chunk percentage wise on my option call. I ended up taking it was just a weekly. So, just the March 28th, just for this Friday. And I ended up getting it was at 271 to be exact. And I ended up getting out, it was like 432 on the trade. But it was just as it was pulling back, I was like, the hell with this. I'm getting out as it's dragging back down because I don't want to waste any profit there. It's just, you're up a decent amount. You had a good entry. Maybe you could hold on until 10:30, but there's no, how do I phrase this? There's no reason to be perfect with the exit when you're already very accomplished with the profit. When you already feel very happy, yes, you can keep it going, but what happens if it pulls back and you're not so perfect on that trade? Well, on the option, you're going to waste profits that much sooner, especially for a weekly. So there's a lot of risk that you still run with it running as it, on the morning there. But the more it goes up, geez, I mean, for the stock that's moving, the option, you're profiting infinitely more on percentage wise. So when you look at it, like, holy shit, I'm up 100% or nearly 100%. Like, let's get out. Let's take the money and run. So that's what I did there. I ended up moving back over to CGC, and then I was, playing around with that 689 price there. All right, folks, last call. Let me know if there's any other questions that you got for myself here. Again, the CGC is still perking up. Very is still hanging in there. So got a couple trades that we have our eyes on heading into the next hour for right now. Just seeing a chat right now from my student Charles, wishing him well right now. And looks like he's doing up on the day. And um, Ira says, look at DJT. My goodness. Uh-oh. What happened? What happened? Oh, yeah, there we go. Ha. Love it, Ira. I love it. And I'm not wishing ill will on DJT specifically, but I love it because it goes to what we say. And this was a pain in the ass to begin with here, chopping around left and right. Now, if it's not going to make that big move off this big level, it's going to make a big move. I guarantee you it's going to make a big move. Just the opposite direction. So it's a gap fill now. It looks pretty easy on the daily chart, just saying it's a gap fill, right? But hey, just it's that sentiment, right? If it's not going to hold support and run off of it, if it's not going to show bullish momentum from that clearly big level, that 530 plus, however, like many thousand, whatever the hell that was at the market open. Well, that clearly was a big level because look at it dropping off from it so steadily now at this point. It's been 50 minutes of it holding under it and just dropping lower and lower. So, yeah, Rumble's nice. That's a nice trade there, Brad. Rumble, one of our students, Brad, calling out here in the chat board. So, absolutely, that's a great one. Big fan. We like Rumble. It moves with the DJT trade at times. So, definitely showing good momentum here. Good order book. Big fan. Let me just show the heat map for right now. Clean call out. I like it. And I say clean because I think that's the first time rum was mentioned, at least as far as like, like trading it. Rich, did you call it out at 10 o'clock in the morning? Okay, Rich did call it out at 10 o'clock. Give my guy Rich a little credit there. My apologies. And then Luis as well, just asking about it earlier. That was my first time seeing Rumble myself in the chat board, so I just searched it just before. But yeah, we had a couple shouts on it. But now at this point, it's pushing back up. You had an iceberg here at 810. It got pulled, but maybe that same person laddered up. New one popping up here at 820. Is that iceberg still showing? It is. Oh my God, that's hilarious. Yep. I think for like 3, 4 weeks now, this stupid iceberg order at $10. I think it's even at a different price. Check this. I saw this maybe like 2 weeks ago on Rumble at $9.95 and at $10. You got over 500,000 shares out there. I wonder. Well, I'll tell you what, folks, that's where we're going to leave off for right now. I wonder. Well, we'll come back to this trade later on today. We'll come back to very later on today. We'll come back to a few more, at least in our afternoon meeting. So for all of us on social media, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, etc., hey, we invite you to join us on our YouTube channel here, namely at Cyber Trading U. Will pop up on the lower left. But otherwise, though, if you're just joining us here normally and are interested in taking the next step, joining us inside our live trading room with all of our students, Luis, Kathleen, Brad, Grant, Michael, all of us just joining us here live. Hey, just scan that QR code on the top left of the stream, just with your phone, with your camera. We look forward to having you joining us there. But otherwise, our next broadcast will be at 2:30 Eastern, just for the afternoon meeting. All right, folks, I'll talk to you.